This May will be 30 years since I graduated from nursing school, which seems absolutely incredible to me that it's been that long, but there was never anything else that I wanted to do. Always nursing from when I was very young. But 16 years ago, I lost nearly everything to drug addiction. I was caught diverting drugs from the hospital that I worked for. I was fired. I lost my nursing license, and I ended up spending about 4 months in jail. It all started with a prescription for Percocet after a surgical procedure in 1997. And I found myself, life was stressful. And I found myself looking for those pills to make me feel better, because they did, at least for a little while, make me feel better. And even after the surgical pain was gone, I sought out more pills and was always able to get them. I would go to my doctor and tell her I had back pain, or I had twisted my ankle. My husband, who was a carpenter, ex-husband now, but they hurt themselves at work sometimes. So he'd go to the emergency room, he'd get pills, and I would take his. So I was always looking for them. Then one day in somewhere around the year 2000, when I was working in an emergency room, it occurred to me that we throw away a lot of really good drugs. It wasn't necessarily a conscious thought, but I started taking them. I put it in my pocket and I took it home, and I took that IV medication when I got home. Most of my diversion was wasted medications, but my use escalated. And in 2003, or around that year, when I was going through a divorce, I also tried fentanyl. I had gotten I was going to be wasting fentanyl, and instead I took it home. Once I took that fentanyl, I could no longer stop using. Before that, if I didn't get any wasted drugs at work, I was okay. I went home. I wasn't happy about it, but after taking that fentanyl, I could no longer say no. I could no longer stop. I always had to have something when I was at work. I only worked 2 shifts a week, 2 12-hour shifts a week, but every time I was there, I needed to have something, needed to get something. And so it was then that I started stealing from the stock. After I did that, it didn't take them too long to figure out that it was me. And after I was caught, of course, I was fired and charged with 26 felonies, and life as I knew it was completely different. I've been sober since my time in jail 16 years ago, but my return to nursing practice was very difficult. And I didn't know how to go about getting my license back, or really even if I could. I was then, and I still am, an excellent nurse. I excelled in my practice. My peers looked to me as a resource and a role model. I had exemplary evaluations every year. There was no hint that anything was wrong, but it still happened to me. And I'm certainly not the only nurse that this has happened to, right? So it can happen to anyone, any nurse, and there's no mold that we fit into. It happens to all different levels of nurses, working in all different types of practice environments. Experts say that about 20% of nurses suffer from some form of substance use disorder. And many experts also agree that this pandemic has only made that worse. How much worse, we don't know yet. But we expect to have some kind of a surge or a increase in nurses suffering. All of a sudden, nurses who had a difficult job to begin with find themselves in a job that is even more demanding, more emotionally stressful, overwhelming, and that makes them vulnerable. And those are the nurses that need help. They need help to get through that, and they need to know where to find that help. So when I was diverting, I wanted to stop so badly. It was not a good feeling. I was not happy about it. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do or how to even think about stopping. I was very fearful about saying anything to anybody, my family, my friends at work, my personal friends. I did not know that there was a confidential monitoring program, that if I joined that, it would have helped me deal with my addiction and keep my nursing license and help me to practice safely. Because of course that's what we want, is to practice safely, be what we need to be for our patients. But I didn't know such a program existed. And many nurses today still don't know that such programs exist. I'd like to change that. Monitoring programs can be confidential or public. So if a nurse with a substance use problem is brave enough to report themselves and ask for help, they can join the program confidentially, and it won't be visible to those people looking up their nursing license, like when they're doing job seeking. They can get the help they need and practice safely. For those like me that had legal trouble, there is a similar program, but it's all public record. So I go through the same steps as they did, but everybody can see all the different steps that I took, see all that I went through, see all my transitions. So again, when going for a job, it becomes very difficult for someone even to call you for an interview when they see that. But once I did find the program and started it through the Wisconsin Board of Nursing, which is where I practice, I really struggled and wondered how I would ever make it through the program. I didn't have any guidance or support, no one to kind of show me the way. I knew the rules, I followed the rules, I can read and I can do that, but there was no peer assistance and no one to guide me through or help me to know what steps to take next. And many nurses I knew at the time quit the program because number one, it's very expensive and they couldn't afford it. And number two, they couldn't manage all of the strict rules, which not that they minded the rules, it was not compatible with work life or single mother kind of life. It can be very difficult. I was granted a restricted license when I joined that program, and I was able to work again as a nurse, which was so great. And I was so happy and grateful for that. But there was just so much that I didn't know. I certainly didn't know what to expect. I was often fearful that I would do something wrong, make a misstep, and then I would lose everything again. And so I completed that program in 2010, and I've had my full licensure back since then. But there are just so many things I would change about that experience and things that I hope people going through those programs today get to experience. So Deborah, I know, is going to talk about her state's program of peer assistance, a program I wish I would have had access to all those years ago. And then later on today, I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I can do now today to help those nurses who are struggling, help make that overwhelming process a little bit easier to manage.